Yo, what's up everybody? It's Drewberry, and I wanted to give you guys my official star ratings for this month's cards. We just had Rise of the Phoenix drop yesterday, and with it was Phoenix Force. I've already been able to play around with that card, so I'm kind of cheating there. I think I have a good idea of where it's going to fall in line with its power levels, but I wanted to let you guys know what I think is going to be strong and what I think is going to be weak. It's especially important this season because we have the economic changes that should be dropping next week with the big patch. I get more excited for the patch than I do the actual season start because the patch is going to include balance changes, new data mines, new variants, and this giant overhaul of the economy. The question I keep getting is, should I be hoarding my reserves or should I be opening them? And I'm going to give you a quick and simple answer. If you value tokens and gold, I would open them up now because the drop rates for those are going to either disappear or drastically drop. And then also, if you have a near full collection, it's probably worth hoarding those reserves so that you can open one of these new cards that I'm going to talk about. So what are the new cards? Let's kick it off with Jean Grey, a 3/3 ongoing. Players must play their first card here each turn if possible. Dude, I'm so stoked that they're finally adding Jean Grey to Marvel Snap. She's one of the most iconic X-Men characters, and then also she's been data mined for so long, so it's really nice to see her jumping in to Snap. And I'll tell you right now, I think she's the most powerful card of this month. I don't know if she's going to be at the top of the meta, but I think in terms of this month's card, she reigns supreme. The control here, the disruption, it's just going to be really nasty for a lot of decks, especially those slow ones that just want to play one card a turn. If they're stuck at one location, then they're only going to be playing those one at a time. You could almost see, like, if you Vipered over Electro and then you had a Jean Grey location and an open location, then your opponent has to play all the cards there. That'd be hilarious. But the combos that I think are going to be the most effective is in a Silver Surfer deck. I think that is going to be the best because basically one of the lines of play I see playing out is you play Brood and then you play Jean Grey. And then that fills the location. So now you can play your cards wherever you want. If you cannot play there, let's say Jean Grey was pushed over to Sanctum Sanctorum for some reason, right, with Iron Fist. Well, you can't play there. The restriction doesn't occur, and basically the effect has no effect, as similar to if the location is flooded or if the location is filled, right? So if the location's filled, first, if you play Jean Grey, fill up that location, you can play anywhere you want, but your opponent might still have that limitation. And we can take more advantage of that by buffing those cards up because they're all 3-drops. So you're looking at a +8 power on your Silver Surfer to buff up that location where your opponent does have to play cards, but they're probably going to try and play like something cheap there so they can play their bigger things elsewhere. But that's so disruptive. Forcing your opponent to play 2 cards if they want to play elsewhere is going to be a really tough time. I think Juggernaut would be another good one, right? To like shove things around, maybe even at the Jean Grey location to push things away so that they have to keep playing there. Wave is an excellent card because I think with Wave on turn 5, if there's still a spot on your opponent's side at that Jean Grey location, they're gonna have to play that one card there. So you can just, whatever you got, let's say you got Dr. Doom, right? So you play Wave, they have to play at the Jean Grey location, but you have Dr. Doom, you can spread the power out, you're going to be in a good spot. Then another one I was thinking about is Arrow. Arrow might make a bit of a comeback because your opponent has to play the first card at the Jean Grey location, and then you can move the remaining card, the last card that they play. So that might be a nice little combo. Now, there are some weaknesses to this. It's not just all happy days. I think Bounce decks, which is very popular right now, is going to have an easy time navigating around the Jean Grey effect because if you have Kitty Pryde, you're playing that anyways, so you're just going to play Kitty Pryde at the Jean Grey location, do whatever else you want elsewhere. So it's not going to hurt you too much. There's some other any aggro decks that want to play a lot of cards anyways aren't going to really struggle against this card. But I think there's a lot to love with this card. Even Professor X would be a nice combo because if your opponent has to commit cards to the Jean Grey location, you're probably pretty safe to play Professor X elsewhere if you can. You have like Wasp and Professor X. Wasp is just another great tool, right? Because it's cheap and you can just throw it out there. But yeah, I'm really excited about Jean Grey. She has amazing variants, guys. Look at all these variants, the Jim Lee, the Art Germ, like, oh my gosh, just an amazing set. So I'm really excited about this card. I'm definitely going to pick it up. All right, next up we have Echo. So Echo is a 1/2. After your opponent plays an ongoing card here, remove its abilities. So it's a tech card. It's also coming in as Series 5. Jean Grey and Echo are going to be the 2 Series 5 cards this month, which means they cost 6,000 tokens respectively. This is going to be the second card that is released after Jean Grey's week. So I'm giving Echo 3 stars. I don't think she's gonna be all that great. In the right meta, she can be fantastic. She'll be a great option. But if you run into some decks that don't even have ongoing cards, this is pretty well dead. And that's where I have a hard time justifying running it in my decks for that instance that I might run into this certain meta deck and be able to deny it. And even then, it might not have too much value because I actually think that Echo's best application is being proactive. You play it at a location and you basically tell your opponent, this is Isle of Silence, you cannot play ongoing cards here. To wait for that moment where you think they're going to play Darkhawk and then you play Echo and you have priority seems a little bit too difficult to pull off consistently. So I don't think that's actually the best way to use her. I think just playing her on curve is going to be the way to go. And then also setting up your own combos, right? So like looking at Wong. Finally, Wong doesn't have to worry about Cosmo. So you can play Echo, you can play Wong, then White Tiger and Odin, or maybe your Gambit combo or whatever you want to do. And you can safely know that you're not going to get Cosmoed and you can play that combo out. Another one is Professor X. I was thinking like if you really want to limit those ongoing decks and you want to play Echo and then you want to X a location and then they only have like one other location to play their ongoing abilities, that could be kind of nice. Or if you are running into one of those ongoing decks, then they're probably not going to play at the Echo location. You can safely Professor X there. Another one is Kazar. I don't know. I don't even know if that's a good combo, but it is a 1-drop, so it does get buffed, so maybe it's good. I don't know. That's where I struggle with this card. I just don't know where it ends up fitting in any decks, and you could make the argument, well, it's just going to be my tech slot. I'll just put it in every spot in my deck because it's cheap. It's cheap, it's easy to play. It does die to Killmonger, so if they really want those ongoing effects out there, they can just destroy it and then play something else if they're running those cards. So yeah, I just don't know. I'm not too excited, but I do see the value if the meta shifts and there's a lot of ongoing cards being run, or maybe there's a featured location and like Onslaught Citadel is running around, then you got to watch out. The variants are absolute fire though. I think I like every single one. The Peach Momoko, the Rian Gonzalez, those are probably my 2 favorites. The Maria Wolf one, oh my gosh, they're too good. They're too good. Okay, now we have Legion. So Legion is a 5/8 on reveal. Replace each other location with this one. I'm sorry, Legion, but I think this card is trash. I just do not see this card being good at all. I don't know of any combos. Look at the combos I got on the side there, guys. Like I was looking through all the cards, all the like location generating cards. Like don't even say Storm because that doesn't work. You play Storm, hopefully early, Legion early, then maybe it works. But if you play Legion at a flooding location on turn 5, it's just going to generate 2 flooding locations elsewhere, and those locations can be played at on turn 6. It's not actually going to work. They're still going to be flooding. They will not have flooded. So it doesn't really work. And then there's like Rhino, maybe Limbo with Magic. I don't even know. Just to remove all the abilities of the locations might be decent. But then you're looking at a bit of a tempo loss. Is this a 5/8? They did buff it from a 5/7 to a 5/8. But if there's one thing I've noticed about Team Second Dinner is when they buff the data mine card, it usually means it might be weak on release, a little bit underwhelming. And vice versa, if they nerf the card before its official release, then it might be a little bit too strong. You gotta watch out. But regardless, yeah, I just don't know where this works, man. This is gonna be a Series 4 release. This is 3,000 tokens. This is on the 3rd week. I don't even like the variants all that much. I think the band one is the coolest one, but otherwise I'm not too thrilled about them. I will say this though, okay? I will say this. There will come a time where Legion is absolutely broken because it's going to be some crazy combination during a featured and hot location, and you just play it and then it makes all the locations the same. You built your deck around for that featured location and you just win the game. Like I'm sure that'll happen, but that is the only time I think you'll be taking that out of your collection and putting it into your deck unless you're memeing, which is super fun. I think this card is going to be hilarious. It's going to make for some awesome moments, you know, like copying Onslaught Citadel, like I was just mentioning, Camartage even, just like all these crazy things are going to happen. But the fact that it costs 5 is what gives me a hard time believing in this card. I feel like maybe if it was like a 4/6 or even 4/5, like having less stats, I don't really care about the body necessarily on this card. What I care about is the effect, which could be really exciting, but because it's dropped so late, I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I'm not too into Legion here, but maybe he finds a way, but I'm giving this guy 1 star. Mirage is a 2/2 on reveal. Copy the lowest cost card in your opponent's hand into your hand. Give it +2 power. This is going to be the last card of the month. It's going to be Series 4 release as well. And in the data mines, I wasn't too excited about this card, but I've really changed my mind. I can see a lot of value here. And actually, I think it just kind of power creeps a few cards in a way. You're looking at like Cable and Maria Hill kind of trying to do the same thing, but not as efficiently, I would say. You're getting information from your opponent's hand. You are buffing that information, and then you can play it later. I think there's quite a few strategies here. You could use it in a bounce deck with Beast, just to bounce it back and play it again and get another high power, low cost card. That seems pretty efficient in your Sarah deck with your Bishop and Angela or whatever else. That's a lot of cards to be played, a lot of value to be had. Collector, also kind of running those decks, gets a lot of buffs from this. Fantastic. It's great. Also, Collector should be a 2/2. I just realized that this is his old version, but you get the idea, right? You bounce a bunch of cards to your hand, or you generate a bunch of copies to your hand. It's going to be really good. And actually, if you don't want to use the Collector in Mirage in the bounce archetype, you could still use that in like a Devil Dino archetype where you're just trying to have a big hand size. Mirage is going to help you. It's going to basically do the same thing that Maria Hill does, except you're getting information from your opponent. You get to know what the lowest cost card is in their hand. Maybe even uses with Black Bolt to get them to discard that card because you know exactly what you're going to be hitting, provided that it stays the lowest cost card by the time Black Bolt is played. But still, I think there's a lot of potential here, but I am going to give it 3 stars. I know. Maybe I should have pushed this up to 4. That's where I was kind of leaning 3 or 4. I ended up going with 3 for the sole reason that you might not like what you get. You might get a card that you just don't play. And then you play 2/2 to really do nothing. And maybe it doesn't really help you out all that much. And in that instance, I could see you cutting it. But it is better than the other 2 I mentioned, like Cable and Maria Hill. But like, let's face it, they're like 2-star cards right now. So that's why I'm giving Mirage the 1 up. But still, I don't know. I could see this not being as exciting. It doesn't seem like a very exciting card. And then Lockjaw Cycle could be another nice one. It's 2 costs. That's easy to throw out a Lockjaw, and then you get a card, and then it goes back to the deck. Maybe that's okay. But there you go. That's Mirage. This is by far my favorite variant. This one is so sick. All right, and lastly, I didn't give an official star rating to this card, but having played with it today, I can say that I think Phoenix Force is going to land in the 3-star department. I was really excited about it. I thought it'd be a little bit better than it has been, but I think it's going to be pretty good. I think it's going to find a home in like a tier 2 deck, but for the most part, it's a bit tricky to pull off consistently. You know what I'm saying? Like it's a 5/6 body. If you don't actually have anything destroyed, it just is a 5/6. It can't even move, which kind of was a bummer to find out. But it makes sense. It says that card can move each turn. It can be really fun. I've been playing it with multiple man. It is so good in that deck. I think that is the way to play. Use Carnage, use Venom or whatever. Eat that multiple man up. You resummon it with a Phoenix Force. Move it around. There's a lot of potential and a lot of power to be had. But right now, at least my initial feeling is that it's more of a 3-star card, might fit in like one deck compared to just like a whole bunch. I will say this though, according to Snap.fan, it is having excellent statistics. It's at like 60% win rate across the board when drawn in deck, in hand. So it is actually performing quite well. So I could see it going to like a 4-star card. And also it's the season pass card. So I find those always feel a little bit better to pick up because there's so much extra value with the season pass. But we also have a couple locations I want to talk about. Okay, so here are the 2 locations that are going to be dropping in July. It's usually every 2nd week, so I don't expect it to be this week, but probably the week after we'll see one of these. The release dates haven't been confirmed just yet, but the first one is White Hot Room. First to fill this gets +3 max energy. So we've seen a couple of these race locations, and honestly, I usually think they're very, very fun. The raft can kind of decide a game, which is a bit scary. But this one scares me even more. I think this is going to absolutely dictate the pace of the game. If the player is able to get there first, +3 max energy is such a benefit. It's insane. If you get there on turn 3, that means turn 4, you're going to have 7 energy. On turn 5, you're going to have 8. And then on turn 6, you're going to have 9 energy to use to try and beat your opponent. That is a huge advantage. Now, you probably did play a lot of cards to win this location, so maybe there's that downside of not having enough cards, too much energy, but that's a weird problem to have. If you got Sunspot out there, you are doing just fine. That might be one of the better cards for that featured location when that drops. Then we also have Lake Hellas. I don't know how to say that one, but 1-cost cards here have +2 power. That's a significant buff, but yeah, better be running armor, because when this is featured, I expect Killmonger to be everywhere. But I do like this location because I don't think it hurts a whole lot, and playing your 1-drops at a certain location, that's fine. I think that's just fine. So that's pretty neat. So those are the 2 locations that are going to be jumping into Marvel Snap. Those are the cards that are going to be released this month. Let me know what you guys are excited about, which one you plan on picking up, which one you think is going to be the strongest. I want to hear it. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys next time.